Hello and welcome back to the KCC channel. I'm Rob and I hope you're having a wonderful day today. Today we're jumping into some Tales from Tech Support. Our first story today comes to us from RHES19, the student employee with the alleged power to change your online banking password. Let's jump right in. So for a bit of background, I'm a college student who works at our on-campus IT help desk. One of the things we directly interact with users for is password resets. On this particular day, a faculty member, not teaching staff, just a university employee, comes into the desk in person looking for help filling out the campus conflict of interest form. As a project for his internship with the IT department of our campus, one of our other student employees created an online web app for submitting COI forms, and this is the first semester it is being used. Anyways, this user apparently doesn't know his password because he almost never uses his university account. So naturally, we go through the process of a password reset. Being student employees, our policy is that we can only do a student password reset. Staff password reset tickets can be created by us, but must be completed by network services. So we create a password reset ticket for user. So here's how our first exchange went, paraphrasing by the way. We'll get a ticket sent off to network services, we'll give you a call once your password is ready. What's your phone number? User immediately rattles off 2 phone numbers like he's an auctioneer. My coworker had to ask him to repeat it about 5 times, just so he could pick out the numbers bit by bit, as the user says his numbers as fast as possible each time. Perfect. Someone will give you a call as soon as network services has reset your password. Well, I'll just come back in an hour, how's that? And he leaves. So an hour later our user comes back, this time with me as the only employee currently at the IT desk. Here's your new password, I'll write it down on a sticky note for you. So this won't change my password, right? Cause as it is, my phone when I log in shows those little stars and enters my password for me. Well, yes, this does change your password, but, well shoot, I don't want to change my password. Internally, if you don't know your password, how do you expect to log in if we don't give you a new password? You can always change your password once you're logged in to be anything you choose. So this changed my phone password, like for my bank and everything else? No, this only changed your password for university services. Wondering how a person could possibly think a student employee at their university's help desk has the power to change their banking password? Oh, okay, that's good. If it changed my other passwords, I'd have to go talk to person to have them fix my phone again. They do all of my technology stuff for me. So now, how do I do the conflict of interest form? Well, I don't have the link to the form handy, but when my coworker who made the form is at work later today, I'll get the link from him and email it to you so you can fill it out. Don't bother, I'm a technology virgin. I don't know what I'm doing. When does your coworker come in? 11 a.m. Great, I'll see you at 11 so you can walk me through it. For a bit of context, this COI form is ridiculously easy to use. As long as you're logged in, it autofills your name and department. All you have to do is enter your birthday and phone number, I believe, don't quote me on that, and either check or uncheck boxes of different kinds of conflicts of interest you may or may not have. That's it. It's a perfect replica of the physical form that used to be used, but yet we've gotten tons of complaints that the new form is more complicated because apparently online equals complicated, no exceptions. There have been users who claim the form is broken because they ignored the note in the form that shows the exact format they need to have their phone number in for the form to be accepted. I feel like an opportunity was missed here. Don't bother, I'm a technology virgin should have been responded by, well, I've never effed a computer either, but that's not an excuse to not know how to fill out an online form, sir. It's interesting how they get complaints that the new form is more complicated because it's online. I'm guessing those complaints come from the older staff members, because if it was the younger staff members or even the students themselves, I'm sure they'd tell you that the online form is actually a heck of a lot easier because most of them aren't used to using paper at all. Do me a quick favor, have a look down below the video. If that subscribe button's still red, it means you're not actually subscribed to the KCC channel. Please hit that subscribe button for more daily Reddit stories. Our next story today comes to us from Mad Pino Rage. The previous technician knew what they were doing. Let's jump right in. I was working help desk as a tier 1 technician, and I was working from home because of the pandemic. I was employed at a managed services provider that had multiple clients across various industries. For some clients, when their users called in, I was a glorified ticket maker, and for others, I followed a simple checklist providing basic troubleshooting steps. As for our major clients, I followed an extensive list. That usually involved holding their user's hand through step-by-step instruction documents or walking them through hardware checks. Frequently, I would remote in to check and fix various settings, collect logs and screenshots, contact vendors, and running scripts, patches, etc. Slap a band-aid on it to get the system and/or the person working. That was our supreme goal. Otherwise, the issues are escalated to Tier 2, which was the client's corporate and internal IT. Overall, this was not very fulfilling because I always wanted to do more and spend more time on things. However, at least I got a lot of exposure as well as strengthened and sometimes flexed my customer service skills. Anyways, the other techs and I would often reminisce on what collective trope a major client's users were spitting at us. Generally, they said these things out of spite. One that we frequently suffered when informing users the issue had to be escalated, they would exclaim, "The previous technician knew what they were doing," followed by some flavor of, "How come they were able to fix this but not you? Can I talk to the previous technician? I want to talk to your boss," and so much more. For your context, at the time of the story, I had been at this organization for about a year and well acquainted with much of everything. Things clicked and I was in my stride. Irate, insulting, and incorrigible callers no longer negatively affected my mood or energy. I was a Zen professional. So I was at the tail end of my shift, sometime in the evening, when a user called in about some issue. A polite, elderly gentleman who had troubles with some of the company's proprietary software. After remoting in and investigating, it appeared to be something I had dealt with before. But whatever the case, I had to soldier on. Within the realm of what I was allowed to do, I exhausted all efforts. I let the user know I had to escalate the issue to Tier 2. Unsurprisingly, the user starts to berate me. "The previous technician knew what they were doing," then followed up about how they talked to a technician several hours ago that was an expert and quickly resolved their earlier issues. My eyes widened as I recognized I had talked to this user earlier. I checked the call history, and I was the only other person they spoke with that day. I felt a rush of excitement, but I quickly contained myself. I verbally acknowledged and let the user elaborate. It was back and forth scorning me and praising the previous technician. They condemned me further, going so far as to accuse me of being new. All the while, unbeknownst to the user praising me, stating the previous technician demonstrated expert skills and was knowledgeable in all things IT and customer service. The user's insolence probably took up a good 5 minutes. Plenty of rope had been laid out at this point. I think there was a brief moment of silence indicating the user had run out of gas. I was a rock dropped in water. I can imagine the ripples of emotion developing on his face as I listened with glee, the audible stammers and fumbling of words over the phone, and his wife's sudden outburst of laughing as I reported, "Sir, that previous technician was me." There was another weak and helpless attempt or two to deflect. I quickly affirmed that I was the previous technician, going into further details of our earlier encounter. Then once again, informed them I was escalating the issue to Tier 2. The user meekly uttered an "okay" and hung up the phone. Going completely off of the story here, this one reminded me of when I started working at the Sears call center here in Canada way back when I think I was either a late teenager or in my early 20s. Anyway, I got through the training, I sat down at my desk, I went to take my first call, "Sears, Rob, how may I help you?" And my mom was on the other end of the line. Whoa. So there's over 2,000 employees there for the call centers, probably 500, 600 of them on the phone at any given time. And when I sit down to take my first call, it's my mother placing an order. Now tell me what the chances are of that happening. Our next story today comes to us from Dick Cheney 600. Red wire, black wire, white wire, oops. Let's jump right in. A friend of a friend, long story, had a skee-ball game they wanted me to try fixing for them. It was one of the first to have circuit boards, so I didn't really know what to expect. However, there is good news, schematics are available. The bad news is that the wiring to the bottom half is somewhat butchered, and some of the connectors are cracked and would need replacement. After replacing the damaged power cord, I plugged it in and it appears that the motherboard at least boots up. The screen animates in what I call a zeroing around pattern. I can see missing segments, but that may be an easy thing to fix. These older machines actually used incandescent bulbs behind the segments. But first, I need to find the wires for the coin switch and see if the logic responds to that and starts the game. On the schematic, I find that the coin switches go to the 3-pin connector that has the color code white, red, and black. No problem. I find a handy little wire and stick it between the red and black wires, and pop, the machine loses power. What? Well, darn. I guess I blew the fuse. So I take the fuse out and the fuse is intact. Now I'm really getting that sinking feeling that I just made a very expensive and embarrassing mistake. The lights in the room are still on, so I don't think the fuse in the house blew because most houses have the outlets and lights in a given room on the same circuit. However, where does this extension cord go exactly? I follow it to a power strip, which is receiving no power even though the switch is on. I follow that to the outlet, and you guessed it, the GFCI has turned off. I press reset, and hallelujah, the game comes back on, completely unharmed. Re-examining the entire schematic before touching anything else, I figure out what I did. The ball release solenoid runs on the high voltage AC from the wall, using a simple triac to turn it on. They use the same wire colors on the connectors for the ball release solenoid as they did for the coin switches. The ground wire was red instead of green, but white is still neutral and black is still live. So I had disconnected live directly to ground. Thankfully, I didn't use a bare paperclip for that purpose, or I'd probably be dead. In the manufacturer's defense, the two connectors are far away enough from each other that the wires for the wrong one would be too short to actually plug them in together. So in the end, this was really my fault for not reading the entire schematic, or indeed, the entire page of said schematic, before I started crossing wires. There had been times in the past where I'd gone down the rabbit hole of tracing out every single line and trying to understand what everything meant, thus tripling the time it took me to repair something, because I didn't see the forest through the trees. Example, missing a broken solder connection or obviously burned out transistor, connector that works if you push on it or whatever. So that is why I jumped at the opportunity to just say, okay, I found what I'm looking for, let's try this. By the way, if the title sounds familiar, it's a paraphrasing of a kid's book my mom used to read me, where it would say something like red socks, blue socks, white socks, and then oops, with a picture of, for example, someone putting the socks on their hands instead of their feet, putting their shirt on backwards, or whatever. So I guess working on anything that's plugged in these days constitutes tech support? With that being said though, electricity is not something you want to mess with, so if you don't have experience with it, bring in somebody that does, because electricity can kill you. There was a convenience store owner in the next town over from where I live who went up on a ladder and tried to repair his own big sign outside of the convenience store. Got zapped at the top of the ladder, flew off to the bottom, and all of a sudden, there was a family without a dad. Stay away from electricity if you don't know what you're doing. Our next story today comes to us from Beef Out. The white isn't white enough. Let's jump right in. Not sure if it really counts as tech support, but here goes. I'm a web and graphic designer, and I designed a flyer for one of my clients. I sent the design to her via email. It's really hard to match colors from the screen to print, especially since monitor colors don't match up to their local office printer. Plus, screen colors are in RGB, so there are literally some colors that are unachievable in a physical print. Usually, for exact color matching, we have to use Pantone swatches, or when they send it for the actual print, they can sort it out and tweak with the actual technician. I received a call immediately, and she mentioned that she printed out the flyer on the company's office printer. I readied myself for the usual spiel about how monitor colors don't match the printout, etc, etc. Conversation goes like this. Hey, I printed this out and the colors don't match what I see on the screen. Yeah, don't worry about that. Every monitor is different and you can't calibrate it to match your office printer. I used the exact CMYK colors for your logo and fonts. Well, even so, the colors look correct on screen, but not when I print it out. I've used the exact CMYK colors, so you don't have to worry about it. Your professional printer will ensure that you get the right color. Yes, but the whites aren't white enough. I quickly checked my file. Did I leave a translucent layer on by accident? No, it was perfectly white. I told her that the white is as white as it can be. Well, the white ink is not very white. I was stunned. Office and home printers don't have white ink. It's just the white paper. Any white areas are basically just paper that hasn't been printed on. I tried hard to explain this concept to her, that printers don't print the white. Regardless, she insists that they do. I tell her that it cannot be done on an office and home printer. It literally requires a separate offset printing plate that only large commercial printers use, and even then, seldom do people print white at all. She insists that her printer does print white and that the design I sent her simply isn't white enough. I tell her maybe her paper stock isn't white, maybe the paper itself is yellowish. No, it's not my paper. It's that your white isn't white enough. Look, I've used some of my liquid whiteout on the paper. It's very white. Your design is not printing the white colors properly. I was flabbergasted. Couldn't laugh out loud. She literally used whiteout on the printout and complained that the correction fluid was whiter than the paper. Can't really remember what happened after, but she showed her boss and he seemed happy with the design, so everything went well, I suppose. Do you think the boss in the background quietly ushered her off the phone when he heard what she was arguing about? OP did a much better job than I would have though, because I honestly don't think I could have kept my laughter contained. Our last story today comes to us from ZoftOS. This is the third order I've got shipped to me without a USB dongle. Let's jump right in. Thank you for calling Anonymous Service Desk. This is OP. Can I have your first name and last name? It's blank blank. Okay, I've got you pulled up here. What can I help you with today? Yeah, so I've had 3 total wireless mouse and keyboards combos shipped out to me to replace my old ones that broke. And this is the 4th time I've had to call in because they send me the mouse, they send the keyboard, but there hasn't been a USB dongle a single time with them. I don't know if the person shipping these things out is just checked out for the day, all day, every day, or what, but this is getting insane. Okay, can I just get a few minutes to pull up some of your order information here and verify everything? Yeah, whatever you gotta do, but I need to have this issue resolved. I have work I need to do. Okay, just a minute then. I proceed to verify that she has indeed somehow made it through 3 different IT people and has 3 combos shipped to her now before coming into my queue and being a colorful character towards me. Okay, I verified everything here, and I'd just like to verify something with the device you were just sent. Could you open the package and remove both the keyboard and the mouse? Yes, I already did. There is nothing else in here. Okay, and now can I get you to take the mouse and look on the bottom side of it for anything that may look as though the USB dongle was placed into a slot to be held during shipment. It may be pressed into the bottom of the mouse lengthwise or widthwise. Yeah, I don't see anything like that. Wait, is this it right here? Has it been here the whole time? And I have 2 other combos sitting here for a week, and it's been there the whole time? Why didn't the other 2 people tell me to check there? I'm not sure, ma'am, but if it was indeed there and you can confirm it is there on the other 2 combo sets as well, I can get you 2 return labels sent to your printer to be sent back to us. Please do, and maybe next time they would make the user aware that the USB dongle is inserted into the bottom of the mouse. I'll mark that down as feedback for your previous incidents. Is there anything else I can help you with today? No, that was everything, thanks. No problem. Have a good day. Bye. Completely perfect display of all-around failure, from the end user not having the ability to process that by the 3rd package, they maybe should investigate the items and see if the dongle is somehow placed within them, instead of assuming that the sealed merchandise package you were sent was missing a USB dongle all 3 times. And then onto the fact that I share work with coworkers who don't know how to check those places for USB dongles on wireless devices and would rather set the lady up for additional shipments. Good times. I've got to be honest here, I've worked in a few call centers myself over the course of my life, and I can say that a lot of the people that work in those call centers generally aren't qualified to be there, especially if they're working tech support. They're used to just going through step by step on stuff that comes up on the screen to answer any questions or take people through a process, but they've never actually worked with any of this equipment personally themselves. So yes, a situation like this can definitely be frustrating, but it also comes with a sense of satisfaction because you were able to solve the customer's issue and they don't have to call back in again. Check out all 5 OPs linked in the description down below. I thank you for watching. I hope you have a wonderful day and we'll see you tomorrow.